Northwest Liberty News, picking the lock on the shackles of tyranny.
Machines are going to fail, and the system's going to fail.
The past is past, the future's now.
Don't look at me. I think these people are completely nuts.
Sometimes trouble just follows a man.
There is another organism on this planet that follows the same pattern. Do you know what it is? A virus.
Can't you stop your lips from flapping for 2 little minutes?
It's because I'm white.
I'm a man. I'm sensitive. I need to feel loved. I need to be desired.
I'm rapidly becoming a big underground success in this town.
It's a question of methods. Everybody wants results, but nobody wants to do what they have to do to get them done.
And now, coming to you live from Kalispell, Montana, brought to you by Northwest Liberty News, it's Montana Gazette Radio with your host, James White. Okay, I'm indeed your host, James White. This is Montana Gazette Radio. Thanks so much for joining us here today on the 16th day of July 2021 in smoky Kalispell, really smoky Montana. There's fires all out west here, all over, really out the west, and smoke's all in the valley and all across Montana. There's some people's lives and houses that have been in danger. We certainly, our prayers go out to them, and we're just we're delighted to live in Montana, but that's one of the drawbacks is this smoke and fire. At any rate, we have a great show for you today. We're going to be joined first off by Austin Knudsen, Montana's Attorney General. Let me give him a quick, brief introduction. Now, if you've watched the show at all before, you know he's been on several times. I think I counted up. I don't think it's 10. I think maybe his mom's in there a couple times, but certainly more than 5 or 6 times he's been on the show. Always delighted to have him on. Former Montana representative for HD 34 and former Speaker of the House, and now Montana's Attorney General, Austin Knudsen. As Attorney General, Austin has made combating the drug pandemic and supporting law enforcement a main focus, ensuring that Montana is a safe place to live and raise a family. And we're going to welcome him to the show and take him off mute here. Let me do that first. There we go. And we will have him on the broadcast. Austin Knudsen, thanks so much for joining us here today on Montana Gazette Radio. There you go. There you go. You're off.
Hey, thanks for having me, Jim.
No, it's great. It's always great to have you. Always great to have you. You know, interesting. I was looking back on some of the previous interviews that we did, and I think the first couple of interviews we just did audio, and I think I had an image of you sitting on your tractor. I think, and you were there probably on your ranch. They're doing some work, and boy, I tell you, it's been a long time since we had those. I think it was a few years ago. You've done quite well for yourself since then. Now you're Attorney General, doing a great job there, going up against the Biden administration, which we can do a whole couple series of shows on that. We don't really go down that road. Let's talk more Montana, if we can. Austin, just starting out, what's your overall perspective on so far? You've been in office, I think, since. It was January, about 6 or 7 months now, coming up on 6 months. What is your overall view on your job so far? Is it sort of what you expected? Is there some more challenges that you thought there were, or give us an overview of the last 6 months?
Yeah. Well, first, thanks for having me on. Yeah. Some things are what I expected, kind of what my team and I expected. Some things not. Some days we find things we never expected to find. Definitely some high points when we came into office. For instance, the Forensic Science Division. So that's under the Department of Justice. That's our state crime labs. What an amazingly well-functioning machine that is. I know they had some trouble a few years back, some prior administration problems and just some prior internal problems. But as a former prosecutor, this might not sound like a whole lot of fun, but as a former prosecutor, and with the drug problem we're having in the state, we have to be able to get those drug results back from the crime lab in a timely manner, or we lose convictions. You have the right to a speedy trial, and if we can't get lab results turned around and back to the prosecution in a timely manner for us to continue on and meet our constitutional obligation to give someone a speedy trial, that results in bad guys out of jail and out in the street. So I can't say enough good about the State Crime Lab, the Forensic Science Division. What a great job they're doing. That was really a nice surprise to come in and see just how well that division was operating. DCI, that's our State Division of Criminal Investigation, kind of our state version of the FBI. They get called in whenever there's a major crime, maybe something that a rural sheriff's office isn't equipped to handle. doesn't have the expertise, a murder, a complex sex assault case, DCI will come in. That's another one that's just, they're doing just fantastic work. They're spread a little thin. Violent crime is up in the state. Officer-involved shootings are up in the state. That's very concerning. Whenever there's any kind of an officer-involved shooting in Montana, our DCI teams come in and investigate those, and they're busy. Those are trending up this year. They were up last year, and we're trending up even more this year, just based on projections and what we've already seen for the first 6 months.
Let me pause you for 1 second. Do you think that's a direct result? First thing that popped in my mind when you said that is the demonization of the police. I mean, really by the media across the country, wanting to defund police. You know, now there's some bad police here. There's bad librarians. There's bad everybody in every different profession, pretty much. But generally speaking, overall, your beat cop, the people on the streets, I mean, they're not out there committing, major, organized crime things. I mean, they just want to, protect and serve generally. But they've been so demonized and so really marginalized that, does that surprise you, Austin, that there is an uptick in police shootings? I mean, the respect for law enforcement has to probably be, and I don't know the statistics, but it's probably got to be pretty low compared to how it's been in the past. Any comments on that?
Oh, so, there's several comments there. So first of all, no, I don't think that's what's driving the officer-involved shootings in Montana. And I can say this pretty comfortably. Montanans like their cops. Montanans like law enforcement. There's data out there. I think if you took a survey, I'm going to guess 99 out of 100 Montanans, they like knowing that their local sheriff's office is at the coffee shop there, or seeing the local highway patrol trooper. No question what's driving the increase in officer-involved shootings in Montana the last few years. It's the meth problem. I was in Billings, met with the DCI Narcotics and Major Crimes team here about a week ago, and sat down with them and just picked their brains about what's going on in Montana, what's going on in Billings specifically. They're really taking the brunt of it. And it was really interesting what one of the major crimes officers said, because we were talking about, meth absolutely is what's really driving the crime bus in Montana, but we are starting to see other things again. We're starting to see heroin make a comeback. We're seeing more and more fentanyl. And so I asked this agent, about the shootings and the homicides going up, and he just said point blank, it's meth, period. He said every homicide he's investigated in the last 2 years has been 100% meth related. I think that's pretty astounding. So when we're talking about seeing the increase in officer-involved shootings, that's really what's going on. We're seeing a lot more criminals coming into Montana. We're seeing increased meth trafficking in Montana. We've got a court problem. We've got a jail problem. And as a result, you're seeing police getting put in situations in Montana where a lot of times they're dealing with repeat offenders. They're dealing with emboldened offenders. I know that's really a concern in Billings. I've talked to Billings PD, talked to the Yellowstone County Sheriff's Office. They're dealing with the same offenders over and over and over because the jail is full. But because really we've got a judge problem. We've got judges that don't want to give jail time. We've got judges that are releasing drug offenders because we've got this attitude that jail time doesn't work and only treatment works. Well, treatment can work for the right addicted person, but not all of these drug addicted individuals are the right people for treatment. A lot of them don't want treatment. They just want to get back to their crime and their meth. And I say that as a guy who's dealt with it firsthand as a prosecutor. That's what's going on.
Well, you talk about manpower issues, right? So I talked to a friend of mine from back Michigan, and he is a retired police officer, and he said a lot of the guys on the force are taking early retirement or getting out because of they're seeing sort of, and as I talked about just a minute ago in the media, they're seeing like for police that are doing their job, they're getting charged, and some people are getting put in jail for defending themselves, for literally defending themselves when someone comes at them with a weapon or something. It's sort of a chilling effect on this law enforcement. I know we've had this issue, of course, that Governor Gianforte took away the $300. I think just 2 or 3 weeks ago, took away the extra supplement from the federal government. Still, are you still seeing manpower issues? And I believe the state police is, or the Montana Highway Patrol is that falls under your jurisdiction. Is there manpower issues with that? And do you think it's because of the COVID, if there is, or is it because of this chilling effect that police are kind of afraid to go? Listen, if I do my job, it looks like I can get put in jail if I just do my job. Maybe not so much in Montana, but certainly across the country that's happening. Do you have any comments on that, Austin?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's actually quite fascinating because this defund the police and demonization of the police is actually really working in Montana's favor. Believe it or not, there are a tremendous amount of law enforcement officers around the country who are fleeing their home states that maybe have turned pretty anti-police, and they're coming here because they've learned that Montana is a pro-law enforcement, police-friendly state. Last year was our highest recruitment year ever in the Montana Highway Patrol for already qualified out-of-state applicants. Pretty unprecedented. So what we're seeing actually is a lot of cops wanting to come to Montana. They're leaving Portland, they're leaving Seattle, they're leaving St. Louis. They're wanting to come here. That's a good thing. The bad thing is, and this living in Kalispell, we've got a really big housing crunch. That's what's leading to the manpower problems. I was just down in Gallatin County and Park County yesterday, Bozeman, Livingston, talking with the Highway Patrol detachment. We can't afford to pay a Highway Patrol trooper enough to live in Bozeman. And that's not just the Montana Highway Patrol. Bozeman PD is dealing with that same problem. The Gallatin County Sheriff's Office is dealing with the same problem. They're getting lots of qualified applicants. They're getting these guys accepting offers. But when they get to Bozeman, they're going, holy cow, I can't afford a $700,000 home in Bozeman, which is now the median home price in Bozeman. That's a real problem when you're talking about the level of pay that we can do at the Highway Patrol. And we just gave a pay bump with the last legislature. I mean, I firmly believe in compensating our law enforcement officers appropriately. But when you've got the housing boom, the influx of new people fleeing California, fleeing Washington, fleeing Oregon, coming to Montana and buying houses sight unseen in Kalispell, in the Flathead Valley, in Helena, in Bozeman especially, this has created a real housing crunch. It's put us in a really interesting position from a law enforcement standpoint.
No doubt about that. Well, I tell you what we're going to do, Mr. Attorney General. We're going to take a quick commercial break, and we come back on the other side. We're going to talk about this nominee, David Chipman, for the ATF, who I don't think he's a very, very good friend of gun owners. He doesn't seem to be, which, of course, that is diametrically opposed to the way we see things here in Montana. But if you could give us real quick, let's go to your website real quick, and we'll give out your website here, and you can let people know the kind of things that they can find there. Oop, wrong window. The kind of things they can find there on their website. It is dojmt.gov, and these are the things that fall under your purview here at the DOJ. They can find just about anything they need, I imagine, on this website. Yes, Austin, including if they want to maybe send a message to you or make a request from you, that type of thing. Tell us what people can find when they go on your website and it's dojmt.gov. Go right ahead, please.
dojmt.gov. Yeah, there's a little bio on me if you care who I am, but more importantly, what we do at the Department of Justice, the agencies that we're in charge of, programs that we oversee, our mission, it's all there. Contact information, that's a big one. People have consumer protection problems or individual law enforcement problems. Reach out to us. We're making a real push to be accessible and to not just stick messages and letters in a desk drawer somewhere, but to actually follow up, reach out, and try to solve people's problems here in the DOJ if we can.
That's the one thing I noticed about your website and the Secretary of State, Christy Jacobson's website. They really are becoming very, very user-friendly. She's done a fantastic job over there with that website. I mean, she's really revamped it pretty well. I think I went on there to renew a business thing or something. It was like, I was done in like a minute or something. I mean, it was like that. So that's great. I think that it's excellent to see, even though Montana's not a big market state, let's say, or for that to get low in population. It's still nice to see that you guys are putting up really nice websites and keeping it classy. We appreciate that. We're going to take a quick break here, and we come back on the other side. We're going to be joined again by Austin Knudsen, Montana Attorney General. We're going to talk about this new ATF nominee and get his view on that. Back on the other side, if you want to support us, you can go to MontanaGazetteRadio.com, MontanaGazetteRadio.com, or the #1 Montana online news website, MontanaDailyGazette.com. We're going to put you on mute. Mr. Attorney General will be back after these brief messages. If you like classic cars, exceptional service, and a money-back guarantee, then the Corner Shop in beautiful downtown Kalispell is the place for you. Whether it's an oil change, engine diagnostic, suspension work, or brakes all around, the Corner Shop has you covered. With expert technicians and a free consultation on all services, you can't go wrong with the Corner Shop. Did I mention the classic cars? While you're waiting for your expert service to be performed, take a stroll through the showroom to see Kalispell's smoothest collection of classic cars. The Corner Shop is conveniently located at 1212 South Main, just south of the courthouse. The Corner Shop is open Monday through Friday from 8 a.m. till 5 p.m., so drop by for an appointment or call 755-7777. That's 755-7777. The Corner Shop, Kalispell's full-service auto repair facility. Hi, this video is brought to you by PatriotPrepared.com, where right now you can save $250 on each large package purchase, plus get free shipping to the continental United States. In these troubled times, it's not a bad idea to have some extra food storage available, and you can save big at Patriot Prepared right now. Go to PatriotPrepared.com, that's PatriotPrepared.com, and use the code TRUMP250 at checkout to receive your savings today. Yeah, I really got to get somebody besides that guy to do my commercials. Anyway, thanks for joining us after the break. We appreciate it. I'm your host, James White, here from Montana Gazette Radio and MontanaDailyGazette.com. If you want to support this broadcast, you can go there to those websites and sign up for the newsletters and all of the information about the website or the radio show, including the Rumble channel, which this interview will be eventually put up on after I process it. You can see all that on MontanaGazetteRadio.com. Okay, we're going to be joined once again by Attorney General Austin Knudsen. Let me take him off mute here. There we go, and we'll bring him back on the air. We always appreciate the Attorney General coming on the broadcast with us. Austin, thanks so much for holding on after the break. We appreciate it, my friend.
You bet. Thanks for having me on again.
No, you're quite welcome. You're quite welcome. Okay, let's go over here to this guy over here. We did a story on Montana Daily Gazette about him. His name is David Chipman. He's an anti-gun activist. I mean, come on, it's almost surreal what this administration is doing. It's almost dystopic. So this guy is no fan of the Second Amendment. He, I believe, wants to, if I remember correctly, he wants to start doing immediately registration. He wants to maybe put taxes on bullets. I think he's even mentioned door. If it wasn't him, it's one of these other nuts that have mentioned going door to door or something for quote unquote assault rifles. What the heck's going on with this guy, Austin? I mean, this is no people in Montana. This is not. They're pro gun. They're not anti gun. They don't want any of these shenanigans. I don't even want them in the state. But don't even come to Montana because you're not going to get any love around here. You have any views on that?
I've got plenty of views on Mr. Chipman. I led a letter of several state attorneys general. I forget the number, 15 or 16 of them signed on to my letter, but I flat sent a letter to President Biden encouraging him to pull this nominee. This is the most radical anti-Second Amendment, anti-gun nominee that I think the country has probably ever seen. I mean, we've certainly seen anti-Second Amendment politicians before, but for Joe Biden to come in and nominate a guy like David Chipman to head the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms, I mean, that's the agency that's in charge of regulating the firearms industry, right? It's obviously a highly regulated industry, and we can have that whole discussion about whether that should be or shouldn't be. But there's a whole federal scheme of laws and regulations that the firearms industry has to adhere to. And so it's important that you have somebody in there that maybe actually knows something about firearms to be able to work with the industry. This is a guy who has just shown not only disregard for the firearms industry, disdain for the industry, but just flat ignorance of guns in general. I think at one time he was an ATF agent. I know he was involved at some point in the Waco massacre that happened back in the 90s when I was a young kid. I think he was ancillarily involved in that. But when you've got a guy that stands in front of Congress and talks about banning assault weapons, and this is one we hear a lot, we got to get rid of assault weapons. Well, then when he's asked what's an assault weapon, he can't define it. That's a nebulous, nothing progressive liberal term. And when you get right down to it, his definition of assault weapon would ban 90% of the popular plinking 22 long rifles that, literally thousands of Montanans legally own and safely enjoy every day. We're not talking about just AR-15s here. We certainly are talking about a guy who thinks an AR-15 is scary looking. I don't know that he could really explain how the thing works. But let's look at his background. This is a guy who's worked for Giffords, which is one of the rabid anti-Second Amendment nonprofit organizations. He's worked for Everytown for Gun Safety, which is another rabid anti-Second Amendment, anti-gun nonprofit groups. This guy is dangerous. Putting him in charge of the ATF is a horrible, horrible idea. This is going to lead to an assault on our Second Amendment rights here in Montana. And you can bet we're watching this one very carefully. We're putting a lot of pressure on Senator Jon Tester. I think Chipman's vote, he came out of committee, which means the full Senate has to vote on him unless the president pulls his nomination. And where the vote count is right now, they're looking at a lot of the more moderate Democrat senators, and Senator Tester is one of those.
That's right.
So put some pressure on Senator Tester. I know we have been, my office has been, the governor's office has been, but Senator Tester needs to hear from Montanans that we're paying attention to this one. And if he doesn't vote correctly on this one, he's going to pay the price for it.
Well, what Jen Psaki, I think, is the spokesperson for apparently President Biden. I don't know. After the results are coming out from Arizona, you kind of wonder if he should even use that term. It looks like it's been some shenanigans, but that's another story altogether. They're saying that they're going to be sending strike teams, apparently, across the country to be able to knock on people's doors, verifying their status on their shot. I'm afraid that it's going to start that way. Apparently, they're just going to be volunteer workers that are just going to be educators. I'm afraid the next level to that, Mr. Attorney General, goes to infiltrating inside the house, and we've seen it in other countries where they went inside people's house and done this. So this is not crazy. Are we? You followed some of the legislation, as I have as well. I know that Governor Gianforte signed a lot of legislation, sort of keeping the feds out, especially with the firearms, parts and things like that. Gary Marbut did great work. Do you think they're going to be able? Are they going to try, in your opinion, to try to send strike teams into Montana to go door to door to try to force people to vaccinate? I mean, is that something that you're concerned with? Is at all? Is on your radar at all?
Well, it's certainly on my radar. I mean, anytime you've got the president's press secretary saying things like that, we have to pay attention. But look, I think talk is cheap. I think it's easy for Jen Psaki to sit in Washington, D.C. and say stupid things like that. But the reality is we have a sheriff's first law in Montana. Your local sheriff is the head law enforcement official in your county. The Fed has zero authority to come in and try to big time your local sheriff and allocate that sheriff's resources. This just doesn't work. And I think in practicality, it can't work in Montana. I really don't think it will happen. Obviously, if it did, we would be all over here at the Department of Justice. We'd vehemently fight any attempts from the ATF legally to come in here and do something like that in Montana. But look, I think you're right. If it did happen, they're probably going to hire some college students to come to Montana and knock on doors. The best thing to do as a Montanan, if someone knocks on your door asking about your vaccine status, politely, civilly ask them to leave and shut the door. you are under no obligation to talk to anybody. Don't escalate. Just ask them to leave. Shut the door. If they won't leave, call your local sheriff, call your local police department, and report a trespasser, because that's what they are. That's the remedy. Everyone needs to keep calm about this. Like I said, talk is cheap. I think it was a silly thing for the president's press secretary to even suggest, especially in a state like Montana. That kind of heavy-handedness just is not going to fly here.
This is right after we were voted the most patriotic state in the country, for crying out loud. Doesn't she know this? I mean, for Pete's sake. So, last question for you, Mr. Attorney General. On the Tucker Carlson show, I think a couple of nights ago, they were talking about how the military, he had some evidence that the military were actually flying undocumented, illegal, I don't even know what even term you use these days, illegals, into red states, sort of in the dark of the night, or without really anybody's knowledge. Apparently, that's what Tucker Carlson was reporting. What's your thoughts on that? You think that? Have you noticed anything like that? I mean, obviously you would report it if you did. Are we worried about that here in Montana? Is that something we got to keep an eye out for in rural parts of even where you're originally from, and your hometown is pretty rural out there on eastern Montana? Should we keep an eye out for that? Should citizens be alert for that type of stuff going on? Buses driving in the middle of the night, dropping a bunch of people off. I know it sounds crazy, folks, but it's going on. I don't know if it's going on in Montana, but do you care to follow up on that, Mr. Attorney General?
Sure. So we've obviously heard the same things. I think these are more than rumors. When we're getting documents leaking out of Homeland Security, out of Customs and Border Patrol, there's obviously some fire to this smoke. I can tell you that Governor Gianforte and I have talked about this one extensively. I mean, since these documents were first leaked months ago, we're watching this one very carefully. We've communicated with people inside of Customs and Border Patrol. We've talked to a lot of the federal players involved in Montana. To our knowledge, and I think we would hear about it. Montana's a small state. There's really only about 1 degree of separation between anybody in Montana. We would know if this was happening. Customs and Border Patrol assures me in Montana it's not happening. I've gone up and talked to them face to face. I think there's a logistics problem in Montana, right? We got a lot of winter here. And you've got the problem of not only where do you bring these people into, but you've got the logistics problem of what do we do with them? We don't have large facilities to process them or to house them and keep them. Winter is long and tough here in Montana. I think the Biden administration knows that. But long story short, the governor and I are monitoring this one very carefully. I know he is very concerned about this one, taking it very seriously. We're monitoring Malmstrom Air Force Base, what's coming in and out of there, whether they're going to try to bring them into a commercial airport, which opens a whole other series of legal questions. I mean, busing coming in, certainly things we're hearing about in other states, but quick answer, it's not happening in Montana yet.
We're delighted for that, and we certainly would certainly encourage anyone out there in these smaller towns and outliers. There's a lot of those places in Montana, lots of them. Be alert. I'm not saying see something, say something, because that sounds a little bit too big brother. But just keep an eye out. People that belong in your community, and not that we're against people coming in and migrating from other places, but just do it legally and properly. And sometimes these people that they bring in aren't exactly their top tier people. They're a lot of times criminals and kidnappers, and they're into drugs and all kinds of stuff. Not all of them, but
that's an important point, Jim. And just really quick, let me jump in there. I mean, the numbers really speak for themselves. Daily, the number of convicted child molesters and sex abusers, drug traffickers that are being caught coming into the U.S. has increased drastically. And we see these numbers, we see these reports almost every day. I mean, this is a thing. These are not all angels that are coming across that southern border and coming into Montana and coming into the country, because they are coming to Montana. This is where our drug problem in Montana is coming from. People have asked me, well, Austin, why have you taken such a hard stance on immigration? Why join the Arizona immigration lawsuit? We're a northern tier state. That's why 100% of our drugs, our illegal drugs in Montana, are coming from the Mexican drug cartels. That is not a talking point. That's not my speculation. That's the truth. So when you've got a president who has flung the door even wider open on the southern border and letting people like this in, convicted pedophiles, convicted sex offenders, drug traffickers. These are the kind of people that are coming in. And as you said, we're all for legal immigration. Come on in. That's what this country is built on. But we have to be sure what kind of people we're letting in and be selective about this. And this is getting very dangerous to a state like Montana.
No, it is indeed. Attorney General Knudsen, we so much appreciate you being here on the broadcast as always. You're always very gracious to come on the show, and we so much appreciate that. And you've been talking about this, I think even in interviews we've done a year and a half or 2 years ago, you were talking about this very same thing with the Mexican drug cartels and the meth coming through. I mean, this is not something new. I can pull back interviews from, like I said, while back, and you were saying the same thing. So Austin Knudsen knows what's going on, folks, and we're delighted to have him as Attorney General. Austin, anything you wanted to say in closing before we let you go that I didn't get a chance to ask you, or do you have anything come up, any events or any speaking engagements or any tours coming up? And I know you travel to different places around the state. Anything you want to let people know before we let you go?
Yeah, I'm trying to get out of Helena. I don't like sitting in the office here. It's a big state, and I'm getting out. I'm trying to visit with as many local law enforcement, local officials as I can. I was in Billings about 2 weeks ago. I was in Bozeman and Livingston and Belgrade this week. Next week, I'm back to Eastern Montana. I'm trying to get out and see what the drug problem looks like locally and how we can help with the Department of Justice. So we're active. We're out. We're trying to be a good partner to your local law enforcement and trying to see what's happening across the state of Montana.
Well, if you come through Kalispell, give me a shout. We'll have you here in the studio. I don't think you've been in the studio yet, so we'd be delighted to have you here. Austin Knudsen, thanks so much for joining us here today. Really appreciate it. Keep up the great work. And if you got any breaking stories, you know how to reach me. I appreciate it. Thanks so much. Have a good one.
Yeah, thanks.
Yep. Bye now. Okay, folks, there goes Austin Knudsen, our fantastic Attorney General, and we're so delighted to have him on the broadcast here. Let me end his there we go, right there. We so much appreciate having him here today on the show. And we're going to be bringing our next guest in here pretty quickly, Sanda Gaub, who's going to be coming on the broadcast with us. She is running for mayor in Helena, and look how weird that is. It's screen after screen after screen. Let's turn that off, and we will bring her in here. Let me bring up her. What a great interview! What a great Attorney General we have there. I think he's really working hard. We appreciate that. Let me bring up Sanda, I should say Sanda, not Sandra. Sanda Gaub's bio here. Give me a moment. I'll have it open. I didn't have it ready here. I should have had it ready, but I was talking with Austin before the show, and I kind of got behind here, so we'll have it up here in just in a moment. We appreciate you joining us here on the show today. Austin Knudsen, what a great interview. We always appreciate having him on the show. We really have been interviewing him for quite some time, and it's always a great interview. And he's doing, again, as I said, a fantastic job there. So let me go here to the show notes, and I will open this up right now, and we will have this bio for our next guest. Of course, I think it's a little bit lengthy. I don't know if I can read all of it, but I'll hit the highlights here. Joining us here, I'm going to have her come on the program here just in a moment, is Sanda Gaub. She's 50. She's a white, privileged homebody, if judged by today's standard, but she is proud and thankful for those who have loved and helped her in the journey we call life. Her witness gives her laughter, and sometimes she will share it with others. She tries to be a law-abiding citizen at all times. She will take on any project with a whole heart and will try almost anything once. She's a product of two parents who recently celebrated their 56th wedding anniversary. She's very protective of her younger brother, whose challenges helped her understand and help people both young and old in the spectrum of colors and cultures. She will be celebrating 27 years of marriage to Darren, and is a mother of two functioning snowflakes. Darren's been on my program before, her husband. So let me get her on the show here and see if I can pop her over into the other screen. I have a screen already set up here, ready to go, and we will have her on here in just a moment. There, she's got the green screen going. Excellent. We'll have her here in just a minute here, folks. Get me Hi, this video is wrong screen. There we go. Hi Sonda. Hi Sonda, how are you?
I'm doing good. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. I can hear you. Yes. Let me bring you over here to this screen here just in a moment, and we'll have you here live on the air on the split screen. And there we go there. Sanda Gaub, I just gave you a brief introduction before I admitted you to the end of the Zoom. Thanks so much for joining us here today on Montana Gazette Radio.
Oh, thank you for letting me join you.
Yeah, you're quite welcome. You're quite welcome. I just saw a video here. I was doing some research here, and I think if I remember correctly, you're running for mayor of Helena, and I think the story was that you kind of got in right under the wire. You kind of got in right there, the day of. I think the last day you went in and filled out your I guess your nomination run, or your intent to run. Tell us how that happened. Did you just, if I remember sort of the clip, did you just wake up that morning and say, "Hey, I'm doing it"? Can you give us a little bit behind that? What give us a little bit of the story behind that?
Well, it's an interesting story, but no, I did not wake up that morning to run for mayor. My husband is into politics. And so I listened on some of his conversations, and it was turning out that our current mayor was going to be running unopposed. And the longer the day went on, the more anxiety I got because of I've been in those commission meetings, and it is not a fun place to be. It's not a fun place to get ideas out. It's not a place that ideas are cherished. And I actually left a meeting once before my husband even spoke. I was there to even just witness my husband speaking. I had to leave because I was so infuriated at how the meeting was conducted and how people were treated in the meeting. And just the thought of having someone run uncontested and gave me a lot of anxiety. And so I was thinking throughout the day, I'm like, good people need to get involved into politics. And I'm like, well, I'm a good person and I can run a meeting. I mean, I run classrooms all the time in front of people that I don't know or their names, and everyone's respected. So why couldn't I run for mayor? And then I was discussing it with my husband, and he's like, well, I gotta go. I'm like, well, I have anxiety over having this mayor go uncontested, or I could put my name in the hat. Which one is more of an anxiety for me? And I was like, well, I'm gonna go. Yeah, I need a choice. And if that choice is me, then I will take that choice. And so at about 2:30 that afternoon, I made the decision. I was like, all right, let's go figure out where you sign up for this. And so I got lost in a couple of buildings and finally found the election office. And I have never felt so much peace at signing my name to a document in my life. And I've done many things with signing my name, and I felt complete peace that I had a choice, and that gives other Helenans a choice. So I jumped in at an hour and 15 minutes towards the deadline. I prayed for about an hour and 15 minutes that someone else would step up so I could take my name out. I called the office at 4:59 asking whether or not, hey, is anybody else running? And they're like, yes, there's just 2 candidates. And well, here I am, and I'm ready to win it, and I'm ready to be Helena's mayor.
Oh, fantastic. That's great. And that's what we need. We talk about in this program all the time. Just, people just need to step up and run for office, run for school board. Certainly, mayor is probably, that's probably not the first spot that people run for. There's nothing wrong with that. I think school board is sort of like the beginner elections, and then people jump up to mayor and other things. But that's fantastic that you're doing that. I think people across the country should emulate that same model. And so, is it too late now for anybody else to join? So it's just you two. There's no other. It's closed, right? No more nominations are allowed.
Well, I think there can be a write-in. There is a small problem on my contender. He did not file completely and was 8 days late completing his filing. So I don't know if he's going to be on the ballot. So I might be running uncontested, or he's writing it in.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting. Since he's run before, he should know that he needs to have that in with him.
Well, give us your. I've been to Helena several times. A beautiful, beautiful place. it's a beautiful drive there from Kalispell, certainly, to get to Helena.
Oh,
Give us, if you can, tell us what what precipitated your move to become mayor. I mean, what issues? I guess probably more specifically, what issues do you see there in Helena, in the city of Helena, that you think maybe with different leadership or better leadership, or even specifically your leadership, could be improved over what it is now? And generally, your platform. And I know people would want to say, well, you're anti-gun, everything like that. That really doesn't, at your position at mayor, it really doesn't matter if you're anti-gun or pro-gun. I don't really think that you have that type of, that's not going to come in your wheelhouse, or I mean, there's certain things that mayors just don't deal with, folks, like the border issue. I mean, the mayor has nothing to do, as we know, of course, with the southern border, but certain things the mayor of a city has a lot of power and control over. Tell us, if you can, Sanda, what you saw that may have been maybe lacking, that you thought you may be able to step in and fill that gap and help out.
Well, first, the main reason why I ran was just getting respect back into our city government, and getting these meetings run properly so that opinions can be voiced correctly and positively, and then to be able to keep it open, because this commission has closed so many of their meetings that we have not been involved in because they're run poorly. On top of that, I really want the businesses in Helena to succeed, because when I was in high school, we would come to Helena and it was a fun place to shop. There was new businesses popping up. There were interesting businesses that were popping up, and we are losing quite a few of our interesting businesses, and the city needs to be cleaned up. The signs, old signs that people no longer have a business there, need to be taken down. We still have our mall sign up, and it's getting revamped. So I don't understand why a mall sign is up there when the mall has been gone for 2 years now. And our capital needs to become the crown jewel that it used to be. It's still there. We just need to, we need to clean it up, address some of our safety issues, because because we have expanded some of our housing, some of our infrastructure isn't able to supply the needs of the new housing that's coming in. We have a 55-year-old sewer and water that needs to get redone. We have many main roads within Helena that need to be resurfaced. Just little things that I think will improve the quality of Helena and make the tourists stay longer, so we can make more money and get more revenue into the city.
I just had, we just had Attorney General Austin Knudsen on right before you were on here, and he was talking about the tragic housing situation in a lot of the main cities in Montana. I mean, Bozeman, he said, is just off the charts. They can't even afford to pay the police, the patrol, to live in Bozeman, because it's just so darn expensive there. He also talked about the drug problem and the meth problem that was, in his viewpoint, was really precipitated by the border, the porous borders, and things going on with the Mexican drug cartels. Is that some of the stuff you're seeing in Helena now? The same thing that the Attorney General is talking about? Are you seeing an increase in? You talked about safety issues. Is there been an increase in crime? Has there been an increase in meth problems with meth? Increased break-ins, in people's vehicles, B&Es, that type of thing. Do you have your finger on that pulse there, Sanda?
Well, yeah, I just talked to my neighbor a week and a half ago, right after I signed up. She's like, I just wanted to let you know we put in safety cameras in because there was a guy in our yard trying to get into our house. And I was like, well, that's interesting. Well, we have safety cameras because someone did a death threat on my husband when he was running. So I just witnessed my neighbor across the street. They 3 days ago just put security cameras in. I have not met with the police yet, but it seems like they're overtasked with the population that is moving in that are homeless. And Montana is not a place that you want to be homeless in. because it's a hard environment. And those are issues that we're going to have to address as a city. What will happen to those homeless people? Do we have the facilities? The problem is, if we go the route that I've seen other cities I've been in, like in Colorado Springs, they were having the same problems. And so they decided to start building more homeless shelters. Well, that brought in more of the drug problem. And it just increased the problem. I mean, I've cleaned out a river next to my house because they were actually, it was a drug dealing, and they're like 40-year-olds that rode on little BMX bikes around the town. And so it's been, I really don't want to see that happen to Helena, what I saw happen to Colorado Springs.
No kidding. Right on. Yeah, well, that's what the, even here in Kalispell, of course, we're having tremendous amount of growth. And that, sadly, I mean, we're all for having people, migrate. Certainly good people come here to live in Montana. But, when that happens, there's going to be a certain criminal element that's going to come along, come along with it. And, that this is something that we have to just, I don't know, Sanda, it's just one of those things where I guess it's growing pains, and I'm for smaller government. I think that my thought is some of the community churches should maybe step up and do a little bit more, or they're able to do a little bit more. But, this is an issue I think coming up in Montana and other places is going to be, the homelessness and the drug problems and the out of control money printing and things that go with it. I mean, you just get to the point where people can't even afford to live in a house anymore, or even buy a house, certainly, because it's outrageous. So I know that's not necessarily on your docket as a mayor, but I know you still as a citizen, you certainly are concerned about that type of thing. What can you tell people? Can you give people the reason why, when they go out there, your constituents there in Helena, when they go cast that ballot, can you give us an idea of why they should vote for you, Sonda, as opposed to your opponent?
They need to vote for me because I want to stay here and I want to fight for Helena. I want it to make it the crown jewel. I think all of Montana needs to be involved within this mayoral race because we're the capital, and so I think the capital needs to have all of its ducks in a row. It needs to have a modern sewage facility, but also to be able to support that facility also. I think the most frustrating thing about being a property owner right now in Montana is watching our property values go up, which makes us excited because then we can sell high, but it also makes our taxes too high for us to live there. So there's things that we need to adjust on. Why are we taxing our properties so much? Maybe we need to get a revenue from a different point of view. I'm open to many ideas to help us solve this problem. So the two income families that don't reach the 6-figure income, but they own their home, won't be able to afford the taxes of that home because the value of their home is too expensive for them, even though they bought it at a reasonable price that they could afford at that time. So how do you adjust those? How do you help those people that have their home, don't want to cash out because they like where they live? And I want to stay here and I don't want to be taxed out like in Bozeman. So how do we solve that as Montanans?
Yeah, good point. Those are some of the issues that we're going to have to face here coming up in the very near future. Sanda Gaub, anything that you wanted to say before we close on the interview? Anything you want to say? Any websites you want to give out? Any email addresses that you have? Do you have any town halls coming up or any type of? I know it's pretty early on right now, but do you have anything coming up where you're going to have any meetings or any meet and greet at the library or anything like that coming up soon that you want to give out?
Nothing really public right at this point in time, but I have a website that I'm struggling to get up, but it is Sonda for Helena Mayor. My email is Sonda for Helena Mayor @gmail. My phone number, I don't know where it is. I I have a new political phone, and then I decided to put it in the hot tub. So I've only had it. So I'm like, I don't know my political phone number, but it can all be found on the web. So search out, come visit at Helena. We have a lot of fun. We have like 3 different farmers markets happening right now, 2 on Saturday and 1 on Sunday, and there's 1 air conditioned. So come check us out and come vote for me in November.
There you go. That's the most important sentence right there in the whole interview, folks. Go vote for Sonda come November. Sanda Gaub, we appreciate you joining us here on Montana Gazette Radio. We'll certainly follow your campaign. Your husband's been on the show here, as I said, a couple of times, and I'm sure we'll have him on again. Thanks so much for being here today. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Jim.
You're quite welcome. Bye.
Bye.
Okay, folks, there goes Sanda Gaub. She's running for mayor of Helena. And if you like what you hear, you can go for her in the next election. We're just out of time here, folks, on this show. We want to thank our guests. I have another interview coming up. I'm a guest on another interview. I've been invited to be on an interview here soon. So we appreciate you joining us here today on this show. If you want to support us, you can go to montanagazetteradio.com, montanagazetteradio.com, or montanadailygazette.com. We want to thank our guest, Austin Knudsen and Sanda Gaub, for being here with us today. Great show, great interview with Austin. I'm going to take this stuff and put it up on the Rebel channel and probably do an article and publish it on Montana Daily Gazette with some of the key points of the Austin Knudsen interview. Thanks again for joining us here today on the broadcast. Until next time, this is James White from Montana Gazette Radio. I'm saying bye now.